All right, Senator, I would like to ask you, I mean, I appreciate that. I would like to ask you about something, and this is one of the bills that was passed that I think is very critical to our economy, which is the Made in Nigeria Amendment Bill. Yeah. And it is supposed to create opportunities for Nigerian-owned businesses by ensuring that it's the first option. Nigerian businessman is the first option for supply or procurement processes. But even the Senate in itself, in procurement of vehicles, we've seen the Senate buy Toyota, SUVs, and all of that. So it seems almost a contradiction.
It's not a contradiction. I think let's understand one thing. What we are trying to say here is this. Look, you talk about vehicles. We are in your studio here. Tell me which of them is produced in Nigeria. Everything we're using here, how many of the percentage is used in Nigeria?
The vehicles in the studio?
No. In this your studio, the items we are using, how many of them, or how many of the technology?
No, a lot of the technology here can't be made here.
Look,
but we have vehicles that can be made and are being made in Nigeria.
Let's face reality. There are some of these things that can be made in Nigeria, but based on what you want to achieve, if the quality is not up to what you want, I'm sure you would definitely prefer to do something different. Let's face reality. What we are saying here is that, look, we have noticed the past experience is such that so many of the things we are doing, including toothpicks, we import simply because there is no patronage. So what we are saying by this amendment, and let me make it very clear, the Made in Nigeria, what do they call it? The bill you are talking about is actually the Public Procurement Act that we amended to accommodate these things you have said. It's not as if there is a specific bill called Made in Nigeria, but it's the Public Procurement Act 2007 that was amended to make sure that in public procurement, the right of first refusal is granted to Nigerian companies in most of the things we are doing.
And the whole idea, I believe that the whole idea of that bill is so that government, as the biggest spender, is able to direct a lot of finance to build the private sector and to stimulate productivity among the Nigerians.
That is it. So what I'm saying here is that if that is what we have done, then it means we meant well, and we really want to see these things moving on. Now, many people are quick to just jump onto the issue of vehicle. It's not the only that's not the only thing that we procure in this economy. There are so many other things that we overshadow, because how many people buy vehicles? Most of the vehicles we buy here are imported. Unfortunately, if you look at it, coming back from where we are coming from, the Peugeots, the Steers, and all the other Volkswagen that we used to have, it is because we have not been patronizing them over time that we lost all of those things. So in rebuilding these things, it has to be a gradual process.
Stanley, I think what the basic thing you wanted to say is that the Senate ought to show example to the use of some of these local manufactured goods from the country. In Europe or in UK, for instance, and US, cannot buy steel material. If you need any steel for any construction, you must buy steel produced in UK for UK construction. You must buy steel produced in US for any construction you want to do in US. That is
okay, just a moment. That is not correct. Let me allow you. You have a point of view.
What's the essence of the Steel Act? What's the essence of Steel Act?
Let me get Romi's perspective.
It is not correct.
Let me get Romi's perspective.
Informing Nigerians.
Romi, go ahead.
I like to think that the most important point here is, like the distinguished senator has said, their intention has been exhibited via a bill. The natural question that will come to mind is that, so what are you doing as people's representatives in giving life to this thing? I think it's a valid question, and I don't think the distinguished senator should get
excited
over.
No, I'm not excited.
It's a valid question.
It's a valid question.
It's a valid question. As the leaders of
you have
people,
just you have just asked a valid question, and let me give you an answer.
Let me give you an answer. Maybe the district senator will also allow us to talk. Probably you can also get a sense of what the people are saying. That can also help in your legislative.
Senator, I will come to you on this one. Romi, go ahead.
So, like I was saying, if, for example, the Senate, and the Parliament, including the House of Reps, say, look, this bill that we've passed, we're going to come out, we're going to show example in how we do our procurements in National Assembly and make it so wholly open for us to see even that, what from vehicles to cutlery to toothpicks, and the Nigerian contractor is given that first refusal. What, you know,
first right of refusal.
Exactly, and that is made so that is what we call exemplary leadership. But when we do it as the people's representatives, that is the parliament, and we said, oh well, we have shown the intention. Intention is not good enough. There must be acts to pull this through. You see, being a parliamentarian is goes beyond just making laws. They are also public opinion leaders in terms of what they say and what they do and how they act. These are signals to everybody there out to follow or not. So, distinguished senators, I would like to say that beyond the intentions, let's also begin to see the actions. It's very critical and it's important.
I don't think you will be fair to me if you brought this issue that he has just finished speaking on and you don't want to hear from me. I'm not being sensational. The issue is very simple. When we realize there is a problem and we are bold and courageous enough to address that problem by enacting a bill, I think it is something we need to look at. It's not the question of intention again. It goes beyond intention because we have now acted by doing what we need to do. In terms of the issue of procurement, I will make it very clear. Even these vehicles we talked about, they are not supplied by foreign companies. They are supplied by Nigerians who are doing legal business, and within that context, they follow exactly the laws as set up in this country. The issue is simple. If we have options, if the vehicle, our, what do they call it, automotive industry, if we have not killed it before now, it will have been a different ballgame. And I want to believe, if we want to really aid this country,
we have an automotive industry that is resurging.
Yes, it's resurging.
It's re-emerging.
And that is exactly the point. And so with all of these things...
And it's re-emerging in a way that when you consider the average spending power of the everyday Nigerian, they will not be able to get it on track quickly enough. Government would have to make a massive investment and can do it in two ways. Government can decide to offer that industry a bailout or a loan, and we know how that is most likely to go, or government can become the biggest buyer of that industry, which will be very difficult if government itself says, okay, no, well, my taste is more of the foreign as opposed to this.
No.
Now,
I don't think if you look at
everything in this studio, for example, which is purchased, which can be purchased in this country, has been purchased in this country. For example, our soundproofing and all of that. The only things within the studio even that are not made in Nigeria are things that cannot be made in Nigeria, which is different when you consider vehicles. Now, we have vehicles that are...
You see, Stanley, I want us to really get this thing right.
But I don't want us to dwell on that, Senator. Fair enough, because...
No, it's a very important issue as far as I'm concerned. Listen, let's not run away from reality.
Okay, let me take a quick...
This thing is very important.
Let's take a quick word so that we can leave that and talk about anti-corruption.
Yeah, I will only talk about anti-corruption when this issue is resolved, as far as I'm concerned, because you cannot just bring something and leave Nigerians with half-baked information, and at the end of the day, we've not achieved the aim. What I'm trying to say here is that if you look at the totality of things that are being purchased, the budget, the national budget, if you look at the capital budget, how much is it? And how much of the percentage, for example, even if we are buying foreign vehicles? But what about the other large percentage of things that will be purchased within the context of what is happening in our economy? I think that's the point we shouldn't lose. Why should we trivialize it to the extent of looking at a small percentage of what has happened within that? And like I said, this is work in progress. You have just said the automotive industry is in resurgence. And if these things are aided, for example, the issue of power, one of the things that have killed most of our industry is the issue of power. And government is making so much effort to see that this power thing is improved. The issue of communication, transportation, the transport industry is being looked at. So what I'm trying to say in essence is that if we look at the totality of these things, the idea behind that bill is a very positive one, is a welcomed one, and it will help to make sure that we now look more inward. And I think that's the most important point.
Nobody disputed that.
Yeah, but then you are making it look as if it's all about vehicle.
Okay, the final word, I would really like us to move on and leave that there.
Let me just put one small question.
No, let me just leave that there, because I think we're getting a little bit too focused on this, because I have quite a few counter arguments
It's okay.
to all of that, because when you look at even the automotive industry, it's one of the industries that actually grows the real sector more than any other and provides more employment than any of those other things that are perhaps less visible. But that would only make us drag a lot more.